All right, everyone, welcome to the Wind Down. It's our latest segment on Breakdown to Lowdown, weekly, only on YouTube exclusively. It's a little conversation that we do, you know what I mean? It's something usually we didn't get to flesh out completely on the show. And we're having it here on YouTube 15 to 20 minutes, inviting on a former guest that we've had before. This week, we have the super talented DJ to the stars. You know what I mean? You might have heard of Jesse Reyes. Well, he's her DJ. He's also a very talented producer himself. We're welcoming Junia-T into the building.
Yeah, yo, thanks for having me, man. I always appreciate rocking with y'all.
Yes, thank you for coming on. Listen, we love talking to you. I was listening back to the episode you were on. First of all, just what a good vibe that was. That was such a great conversation. So we love welcoming you back. Clarence looks happy. He was not happy when we started recording, so I think you've brought out a very good energy in him. Yo, let's jump into it. We got a conversation today, man. Let's talk about it. Who's the best entertainer of all time, man? This debate, I saw it sparked again on social media. There's a lot of people throwing names out there, but the two consistent names was Beyonce, Michael Jackson. People comparing these eras and who quote unquote succeeded in reinventing themselves and just thoughts, you know what I mean? Because I think other names can actually be thrown in the conversation, but let's talk. Let's thoughts. Clarence, I think you're itching, so I go ahead.
Say what you gotta say, bro. Say what you gotta say, bro.
Man, I'll be controversial right off the bat. Like Michael Jackson off the top, but at the same time, people might not agree with me or they just don't want to say it. But I gotta go with Chris Brown. But he's getting blackballed. We know why. But Chris Brown, I don't care what you're saying. This guy, when he's performing, he got hits for days, and he's actually performing. He's dancing his ass off, and he's doing all of that on drugs on top of that. Like,
wait. Allegedly.
Yeah, allegedly, but hey,
I don't know what he's on. I don't know that man. Listen,
I don't know if you saw, like, I can't send you the link after, but like his performance, his past performance at the Soul Train Award was like that shit was crazy. And on top of that, like, see, I said Michael Jackson first, but when Michael Jackson passed away, nobody they tried to do a bunch of tribute. That shit was super duper trash. But when he actually did it, that's when people were at peace, saying like, yeah, we finally have a good Michael Jackson tribute. So
I'm sorry. Okay.
I don't care what you're saying. I know the hate in you. I know you're gonna say
there's no hate. See,
Rihanna, blah blah blah. Cool. He beat up Rihanna, but it doesn't change the fact that he's still a good performer.
I wasn't even going there at all. Clarence. Hey,
sorry.
Hey, relax. Calm down. Breathe.
No, but every time I say that, I know where the convo was going.
But I wasn't even gonna talk about his personal life. Right here we're separating art from artist. I wasn't gonna talk about the dumb stuff he did.
But I'm just gonna add one more thing. Sorry, one last thing. Like, we all know the reason, but like, it's not crazy that he never did a halftime in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, it's crazy. But once the politics of that is.
But that's all I gotta say. For me, it's Michael Jackson, Chris Brown, and after that, you can slide in Beyonce as third. But that's how I see it.
I'm gonna completely disagree here. And then I'll let Junior go. But like Chris Brown is an amazing performer. He is, but there's a few categories for me that go into live performance. And we're talking about entertainment level. One is obviously stage presence. 2, interaction, likability with the crowd. 3, if you give me a good dance. Yes, not everybody dances, but they got that. 4, if you can add vocals on top of that, I think I'm yours. You know what I mean? So I think there's two of those things that Chris Brown doesn't have. I'm not gonna name the ones just because I'm not gonna get that controversial. But there's 2 of those 4 that I think that Chris Brown is not the best at. That's my opinion on that. I do think the conversation mainly in our generation, yeah, sure. It'll be mostly versus Beyonce and Michael. I think Janet deserves to be in this conversation. Wow. I think Madonna deserves to be in this conversation. I think Kendrick deserves to be in this conversation. Yeah, but Not a lot, actually. I can't think of a whole lot. But what do you think,
I
Junia?
don't know about the Madonna,
Um,
but
those are both of them are really hard to gauge because they both have the work ethic. They both, um, I feel from what I hear, and when I see it, both legacy artists. You know, people that aim to
Yeah.
put up music to last. You know, I might just give the edge to Michael Jackson just because we don't recognize the era he was coming up in.
Mm-hmm.
Just like place like what it's like now, and just think it's the same what it was like when he was a kid coming up. Like, for one, he's black. You know what I
mm,
mean? There's no internet, so
Mm-hmm.
media runs the perspective of general things, and
Mm-hmm.
segregation is a real thing. So like, black music was black music.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And when it crossed over, then that's like that was a political moment in
Yeah.
history of North
Yeah.
America. You know what
Historical
I mean?
moment.
So I feel like he had a lot more like to go through
Right. So
as a
so
talent person.
what he did would be kind of more impressive considering the era, considering
mm,
what he was up against, and
Yes,
technically making it much easier for Beyonce.
right. And remember, he pulled off some of the craziest feats to this day, like buying people's catalogs. You know what
Yo,
I mean? Forget that. Like, those
yo,
are
for
nuts.
sure, for sure. But
mm,
I'm gonna try and keep it to the state. And I'm thinking right now of some of the stuff that Michael did, like coming out of freaking spaceships and stuff. And like Michael, the thing with when I talk about crowd connection,
Right.
it's like he would not say anything, and people just were passing out. Like he didn't even do anything. He just
That,
stepped on stage and you just
mm,
passed out. And I'm like, what was that? You know what I mean? And listen, people, I saw this debate and I was getting heated with somebody because listen, they were really trying to convince me that Beyonce was better. And I love Clarence knows. Clarence, I'm a Beehive honorary, not the insane, but the sane part of the Beehive. You know this. I think Beyonce is an incredible performer.
right.
But Michael Jackson, like you're not gonna I'm sorry, it's just not, I don't know what it is. It's not the same. People are like, well, if we're talking about stage technique, costuming, vocals, she's surpassed him in all of those. And I'm like, has she?
You know what? It's like apples and oranges, man. I think what makes it hard for me to decide, period, is just the era. The era changes everything for me
Mm-hmm.
because, like, you know, there were a lot less wizards back then. And when I say wizards, I mean like top tier players. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? And like that community of writers and creatives were really like unique. Whereas in our modern day, there's never a shortage of music.
Mm-hmm.
You could just like open up a window and search for something and make some. Not to say that that's how the music was made, but I'm saying it's a whole different era created. You
Mm-hmm.
know, so hard to compare the two. But to give you a definite answer for me, I'd say MJ because of the
MJ,
era.
MJ, for sure.
but I feel like there's a lot in Beyonce's performance. There's a lot of MJ too because there's a lot of first that MJ did, and I think personally, as far as it goes with performance, I feel like there's one aspect that is important. It's the aura because you said it earlier. The aura, just like you said it, like just the presence of Michael Jackson on stage, like people just start acting crazy.
It was nuts.
Like it's nuts. Like, and he doesn't even do anything. Like just stepping on stage, it shows like
It was the anticipation of
yeah,
Michael being there and like just having seen him in your lifetime, and he was going to give you a show. Michael was doing things. Michael was defying gravity out here in these streets. Like let's
mm,
be real, like he was leaning over and people still try to figure out how he didn't fall, like things that were almost inhumane. Like Michael would talk to you about trying to get a sound right in the studio. He's talking about lying down on his back to get a note right. I'm like, sir, what are we doing? Who does
mm,
that? You know what I mean? And hey, to each, everybody has their own thing. I've heard Justin Timberlake speak about Beyonce doing in the studio, like running through something like one time and doing six, whatever he was talking about. But he was like super impressed. Of course, artists geek out about other artists doing
Right.
impressive stuff. That's cool and everything. But I just think that when it comes to Michael, he had a thing where I don't
mm,
like. Okay, I don't want to be too, I don't know if this is right to say, but like a lot of people would say Whitney Houston, best vocalist of all time. A lot of people will argue that. Now, does it mean that there aren't people who sing better than Whitney? And again, I'm not trying to offend nobody. You know what I mean? But does it mean that there aren't people who sing better? Because I mean, Patti LaBelle says hi, Aretha says hey. You know what I mean? There's people that could go with Whitney. You know what I mean? However, I think she had like for whatever what Michael had for entertainment for performing, Whitney had for the voice. It's like it's a thing where it's like it just you can't it's intangible. You can't really touch it, but it touches
Mm,
people in a different way. And in that sense, I kind of think like that's where Beyonce might not. She'll be Beyonce. Beyonce will be Beyonce, and Michael will be Michael. It's different. It's different. It's a different thing. And somebody was telling me like, yo, well then, well yeah, we know that she was inspired by Michael, but can the student not surpass the master?
mm,
Fair to say too. That's very fair. And you know what?
mm,
That actually might be the fair thing to say because of like her career is still going. You know, that's like the Biggie and Jay-Z comparison. Like, you can't really compare it because Jay-Z's career is still going. You know what I
mm,
mean? And
mm,
I think for that reason, maybe Beyonce does get it because she's still going and she's getting
mm,
to experience this new era of music and she's still succeeding. Because in ways people could say it's hard too now because there's so many things that could take you down because of the internet. Do you know what I mean?
Right,
So
right.
yeah, interesting way to put it.
I mean, I think it's definitely difficult to it's more difficult to maintain the way Beyonce has. That is
Right,
difficult. Like I was the other day, I was counting the years of
right.
on top and relevancy, and no real scandal. That's kind of unheard of in her sense. You know what I
mm,
mean? But I do think we're getting to Beehive. Don't come for me. I do feel like we're getting to the era where Beyonce is gonna start like I don't want to say decline, but she has gotten to a status now where it's like we're more looking at the newer people. Like we still care about Beyonce. Fans will still care about her. Her releases are still important, but she's knocking on 40 and we know what this industry says to people as once they get to a certain age, especially women. I'm just throwing that out there like a little nugget.
I like that you
mm,
brought that up because like I think this is something that is too common in our culture that I don't think it should really have a place is
mm,
aging things outside of its importance. Because like try to age Bob Marley, fam. You can't.
Right.
He's legendary. Do you
Right.
know what I'm saying? And like I find in other genres of music, like maybe jazz or like something instrument based, someone who did it before you is forever revered. You know what I mean? Like
mm,
in rock music, those guys are touring till they're like old and gray
Mhm.
in
Mhm.
mm,
all of their territories, right?
Mhm.
And I find that in like in
We
our
don't
music
respect our legends here.
the same way. Like, you know, the hip hop legends that are like the founders of hip hop can't even tour or don't tour majority of the time in the States. They go to like places like Europe where
Mhm.
the originators are being respected. You know what I mean? So like to say that she's approaching 40, that should mean that like she's entering her Diana Ross era. You know what I mean? Like her classic era where it's just like just respect the catalog
Yeah.
that you know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? It's like
But actually,
it's
I do think that's where she's heading. But I actually, and I
mm,
also don't think that she's gonna slow. Well, she's gonna slow down with releasing, but I don't think her impact is gonna decrease. I think she's still gonna be very impactful, but I don't think she's gonna be releasing as much as she did in her younger years, just from what she has said herself.
right.
But if we're looking at people like Michael, who he released a lot of work, and a lot of his albums reach great heights. Even the ones that you might want to call a more flop kind of album,
Right.
they weren't really flops. Like, and he was, quite as kept before his death was embarking on like one of the biggest tourist shows of his life in the UK. You know what I mean? It was his like
mm,
closeout, and like not a lot of artists can choose when they close out. And when they like usually you just fade out. If you're lucky, you had a few hits, and you know what I mean. But he got to choose and was gonna do it on his terms. So that's something to kind of look at and revere. Like even Tina Turner was performing until like her mid 70s, which
Yeah.
well, I think Beyonce, she's different from the crops out there. She's a tier artist that I feel like she don't even need to drop music anymore. She can just tour out of her catalog. Her catalog speak for itself.
Yeah.
So
Right.
I think she'll be straight.
Yeah.
It's not like how I don't want to say no name, but it's not like an
Say
artist
the
that
name.
okay, yeah, you have like one album that is good and we clearly know that yes, in probably 20 years we will recognize that that was a classic album. It changed the game. But if you go on a world tour, it's like okay, is this artist is worth of a world tour or a closeout tour like
Hmm.
you said, whatever. So
Who is
no,
worth a world
I think
tour?
Beyonce, she's straight to be honest. She's one of these
She's
tier
good.
artists that she don't need to drop an album and she'll be good.
She'll be all right. She
Yeah,
will
she'll
be.
be
I
alright.
think she does. Considering I think she's on her sixth album. Yeah, she's on her sixth. Her next would be her seventh album.
Yeah.
Considering the amount of albums some of her peers have dropped, she hasn't dropped. Like Mariah Carey's like 12, 13 albums or so. Like, you know what I mean? I think that she hasn't dropped as much, but her eras are so impactful. Like you look at the
Mhm.
surprise album era, the 20 that drop was like everybody was trying to do a surprise album after that. It didn't work for everybody, but you know, it was interesting. And then she did like the visual film, the Lemonade, which was it's like she consistently, and this is no knock to Michael because he just there weren't the same. I think the
It's
things
the
that were
era.
available around that time were it's not the same. You know what I mean? But
Mhm.
the vision that Beyonce and her team have is incredible. It's like wow, like okay, you know,
It's
And
dope to see, man. I could always enjoy people that strive for legacy. It's just it will always inspire other creatives to like make that the benchmark, and I'm always happy
mm,
to witness that. You know what I'm saying? Because that's what we're all out here to do. It's like legacy. You know what I mean? Create
yeah,
lasting things that give people real feelings. You know?
absolutely. Sitting here
and
talking to you guys has had me remember, like thinking. I'm trying to think of like who, if we're taking Beyonce and Michael Jackson out of it, who's out here like performing like that? Like who do we
Gotta
have?
be
Because like
like Jesse Reyes. I was just gonna say that. Like
Jesse,
Jesse
well,
Reyes.
Let me tell
Jesse
y'all,
Live is
Jesse
dope.
I'm
does
just gonna
kill it
say like
live.
no bias. Like I know I'm a DJ and thing. Like I get the best seat in the house, but like being a performer for many years and seeing
Yeah.
many styles of performers from musicians to vocal performers, 2 or 200, whether they're paying attention or giving her their full attention,
Hmm.
Jesse commands the room
All the time.
effortlessly
Yeah.
all the
She
And
has
time, and
such a
also
stage
speaks
presence that I love. Like,
her mind. You know what I mean? And I feel like that's an important responsibility of an artist.
hmm
It's to make the humanity part of it the whole time.
hmm
You know what I mean? You can see some
and
artists put on an act for the show, and then some artists adjust themselves all the time. And I
yeah,
feel like that's what makes Jesse's
she's always
performance
herself.
special to me. You know what I'm saying?
and
Yo, shout out
I
to
just want
Jesse.
to add on what you just said because me personally, like I love going to show concert and I witness a lot of artists. They just don't have that presence on stage. Like if you don't command the attention of the crowd, like it's a wrap.
Right.
Hmm.
So literally for me, it just say that you just there on stage and get that bag and you dip, and it shouldn't be like that.
No, I need an
And
experience,
your
bro.
performance, you can be the dopest artist in the world, dropping the dopest track in the world or whatever, but when it comes to the performance, if that performance is not on point, it's a wrap. And everybody knows, like Junior, you can talk. Like the bag is not in the music. It's all about tours and all that most of the time. So man, if you don't manage to give that experience on tour, and to the point that yes, you can build a legacy, but like you just said it, Nikki, like are you if your stage presence is not on point, you don't command the attention of the crowd. When it will be time like 20 years on, even though you got hits for days, will you be able to fill out stadium? Will you
Right.
be able to do like closeout tour, European tour, Asian tour, whatever it is? Like, are you gonna be able to do these tours? No, you're still gonna be filling up like thousands. The
The
not
little
stadium,
clubs
what do you
and
call them?
stuff.
Yeah, venues, 1,000 people venues or whatever. So I'm not no knock on these people doing that. Some people that's their lane, but like if you're trying to be a big legacy, like as far as the Beyonces or whatever, you're trying to be these tiers of artists, like yo, get your shit together as far as it goes for the stage presence, the performance, and everything. So
I would love to see some more training done with that towards artists, because I just feel like the quality of stage performances has just declined. Like to the point that when I see an amazing performance or entertainer, it's shocking. It's like, oh, it's like
mm,
it's not as like normal as it used to be, whereas like you expected a certain type of quality, where now it's like the outliers really stand out. It's like, oh yes, Jesse's dope, or yo, Chloe and Halle, they put work into that, like, you know what I mean? Like, whereas like I can't really name like who's doing it out here. Like Kendrick, I have to salute Kendrick though. This man.
Kendrick, yeah,
I'm not
Kendrick.
even mad at it, to be
Mm,
fair. Like in the beginning, maybe I would be like snobbish about it, but now I don't mind it at all. It's just like if you're great, we'll know. That's just it. Like you'll be
Yeah,
memorable. Put it that way.
be
When
memorable.
something is
Ooh.
great, it'll be memorable. It doesn't mean it wasn't enjoyable, but if it wasn't memorable, you know.
100,
mm,
100. And yes, Clarence, I would absolutely give Chris Brown a seat up here with some of the great entertainers. He does put on a great show. But again, I'm not gonna I'm gonna need you to answer the question, because see, Junior and I answered. So Beyonce or Michael, who you got? You didn't
no,
answer.
I go with Michael. That's for sure. The reason I'm saying that, I'll give you an example. It's totally left field, but basketball. People can
Okay.
say whatever they want. People compare MJ to LeBron, but LeBron for himself is gonna tell you, yo, everything that I'm doing right now is fucking Michael Jordan. So I'm putting my hand on the fire right now that I'm sure Chris Browns, the Bruno Mars, the Justin Timberlake, the Beyonce, they all gonna tell you, yo, I
Hmm.
looked at Michael
Mike.
Jackson.
Michael.
So
And that's you know what? I love that. I love that note to close things out on, because that's exactly what I was trying to say with the students surpassing the master. I don't think, you know why I don't think it can happen, even if, yeah, let's say on paper the student technically becomes better. You can't ever be, you can't ever surpass, because whatever you got, you learn from that person. So I don't think it can like, you can improve it, you can, change it to yours,
mm,
to your persona, and adapt it to the time that we're living in. But I don't really think in that condition, like, that you can ever be
mm,
better, because that's the
yeah.
person who taught you.
You can be better than the standard bearer. That's how I feel in any genre of music, media, not only music, sports or whatever it is. You always have that standard bearer, and we all know in music. I think any genre all put together, I think it's MJ. So
One thing I'll
whatever
say,
it is,
just to like throw in like that part of inspiring, being able to inspire somebody else, I think
mm,
is an important part of this whole conversation, because it's like
mm,
it's a lineage being continued on. You know what I
Hmm.
mean?
Hmm.
mm,
MJ did his thing for what that era and inspired a bunch of people
Hmm. Hmm.
to do whatever they wanted to do, and then they
mm,
continue that whole ecosystem of inspiration, which is like wild.
That's
You
so
know what I
mm,
mean?
beautiful. That's so wonderful.
And I remember on the show we had you on Junior. We talk about the same thing, but on a record scale, like Drake or MJ. MJ, I just feel like MJ is always that standard bearer, either for record sales or performance or whatever. MJ, I feel like at the end, MJ is just the best artist
Well,
of all time, point
what
blank.
when it comes to numbers, it's just like Junior was saying in the beginning. For numbers, you definitely have to consider eras. The way
Yeah.
they're counting things it's just different.
Yeah.
It's just different.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
the
So I mean,
conversation.
shout out to Drake.
Yeah, that's another conversation. We had it before, but like at the end, it's funny because we always come back to MJ.
He's just fucking I mean, ooh, I'm on YouTube, can't swear. I'm sorry. He's just spectacular.
Mm,
I was, and to get ready for this last night, I was watching a few videos just because I want to be sure what I was talking about. You know what I mean? I'm like, let me check. I'm like, yeah, yeah, he did that. Yeah.
mm,
All right, guys. So thank you so much, Junior, for joining us. This was so fun. It's always so fun talking to you. I hope that you come
mm.
back in the future whenever you have anything you want to talk about. Come chat with
Absolutely.
us first. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right now, let the people know where they can find you. Keep up with you.
Um, Just find me at Junia-T.com, Junia-T.com. Download Studio Monk, watch the documentary. Simple things, man.
Mhm.
Yes. All right. And Clarence and I will see you guys next week. Don't forget, you can listen to full episodes of Breakdown to Lowdown. Link in the bio.
All right. Peace.